28 is function, operations, and composition. So at the end of 2-3, you get the function notations, which is just merely plugging in for x, okay? Now we're going to do basic operations with them and look at what a composition means, okay? So I want to look at the basic operations first. Let's let f of x equal x squared plus 3 and g of x equal negative 2x plus 6. And we're going to find the following. Okay. Let's do f plus g of negative 7. F plus g of negative 7. Now, with this being an operation, I'm giving you two functions to deal with, f and g. What you're going to do is plug 7 into both functions, okay? Then you're going to take the outcomes and add them together because that's what the operation says, okay? So our first thing is we're going to go to the f function, which is x squared plus 3. And where that x is, we're going to place negative 7. So that's what 49 plus 3 is 52. Everybody say, all I did was plug in negative 7 into f. Then you're going to come to g, which is negative 2x plus 6. And you're also, in the place of x, going to plug in negative 7, which 14 plus 6 gives you 20. Now you do what the operation tells you. Once you plug negative 7 into both functions, then you're going to say 52, what? Plus 20 would give us 72. And that's the answer. Y'all see that? That's how you do a function operation. I'm going to give you something to plug in. You plug it into both, but you got to turn around and do that operation, okay, with the two outcomes. Does everybody see what I did? I plugged it into F, and we got 52. Well, you can come up here and write 52 plus 20. And then I went to G and plugged in negative 7 and got 20. Then you got to come and do what it says. It says add the two functions together. That's how we get 72. Does it make sense? Okay. Use the same two functions. Let's do F minus G of negative 4. F minus G of negative 4. So we're going to do the same setup. It's just at the end, you got to do what with the two outcomes? Subtract them. Good. Subtract them. So F's function is x squared plus 3. So you're going to plug in negative 4 squared plus 3. So that's what, 19? And then we're going to come over to G, which is negative 2x plus 6. And I'm going to plug in negative 4 where that x is. And that's going to give us a positive 14. And what we're going to do? Subtract them. Very good. 19 minus 14 It's going to give us 5. Positive 5. Does everyone see that? And that's your answer. Everybody understand what we're doing? Basic operation, but you got to plug into both. Okay? So, same two functions. Oops. But this time we're going to do FG of 4. So what does that mean? Multiplication. Good. You're going to multiply. Still got to plug into both functions, though. So F is x squared plus 3. We're going to plug that 4 in. And we still get, what, 19? Then you go to G, which is negative 2x plus 6. And when I plug in 4, that's a negative, what, 2? And you said we're going to do what with these two? Multiply them. Good. So that's going to give us a negative 38. Very good. Do y'all see that? Pretty simple. I want to make sure y'all know how the notation looks for operations. Okay? And so you only have one more operation, which obviously has to be what? Division. So if we did F over G of 5, that's how you would know that's division. It's F over G. So again, we got x squared plus 3. That's going to be 5 squared plus 3, which is 28. Got a G's function. Plug in 5. And that's going to give us a negative 4, right? Negative 10 plus 6, which is negative 4. And we said we're going to divide these two. 28 divided by negative 4 is negative 7. Do y'all see that? Or you can do 28 over negative 4 is still negative 7. Does that make sense? So, I mean, you only have 4 major operations: add, subtract, multiply, and divide. However, we're starting them off the same. Whatever number I give you, you had to do what with it? Plug it in. You got to plug it into both. And then you do the operation. Does everybody understand that? Okay. Questions before I move into compositions. Okay. Let's change up our functions. Let's let f of x equal 2x minus 3 and g of x equal x squared plus 3x minus 10. Find the following. Okay. Number 5. Now that's not fog. That's f of g. We use that symbol as of. F of G of 3. F of G of 3. Now, this one is not worked like the operations, all right? You do not plug into both. You only gonna plug into one of them, okay? So, which function do I start with? You're gonna always start with the one closest to the number, okay? So 3 has to be plugged into G, all right? That's your start. Compositions are not the same as a operation, because operations you plugged into both of them, okay? But when you see that little circle, that means I'm only going to plug into one of these functions first. So that's G, okay? So we're going to go to G's function, which is x squared plus 3x minus 10. We got 2 places to stick 3. 3 squared plus 3 times 3 minus 10. And when you plug that in your calculator, you get what? 8. Very good. Does everyone see 8? Plug that whole sentence in the calculator. Now, what you do with 8 is you're going to now take it and plug it into F. That's the last function. Do you see that? So it's kind of like a chain effect. I take 3, stick it into G. That's the closest one to them. You get a number, but then you got to finish it off because there's still F sitting there. Do you follow me? So I take 8, which came out of G, and stick it in F. What you get out of this last function is your answer. This is the actual answer because you finished the composition. Okay? So when I go to F's function, which is 2x minus 3, and right there we're going to stick 8. That's going to give us a positive what? 13. And that's my answer. 8 is not your answer. 8 was used to finish the composition. Does everybody understand that? Your only answer is 13. You don't have 2 of them. You're not multiplying them together. You're using 8 to get to the next step. Does that make sense what I'm telling you? So your only answer is 13. Does everybody see what we're doing? Okay. Let's do another one. Keep the same 2 functions for F and G. Let's do G of F of negative 2. G of F of negative 2. So this time we're plugging negative 2 into who? Into F. Very good. Does everybody understand? That's the closest one to them. So we go to F, which is what, 2x minus 3? And we're going to stick negative 2 in, which gives us a negative who? 7. Does everyone see negative 7? And what you going to do with negative 7? Plug that into G. So G's function is x squared plus 3x minus 10. We got 2 spots to plug in that negative 7. And you should get positive 18. Do y'all see that? And like I said, plug that entire sentence in the calculator so you won't mess up on signs. This is not the time to mess up on signs because these are not difficult. This is easy. So just plug it in. Does everybody understand? Still okay? let's do f of g of negative 5. F of g of negative 5. Who we plug into? G. Good. So we got negative 5 squared plus 3 times negative 5 minus 10. What we get? 0. Then what you gonna do with that 0? Plug it into f. And f's function is just what? 2x minus 3? So if you plug in a 0, what's your answer? Negative 3. Awesome. Y'all see that? Questions? Still okay? All right, the last piece of 2-8 we're going to do is kind of like a proof. And this will be number 8. So it says, for each of the functions defined as follows, they want you to find A, B, and C. A says f of x plus h. B says f of x plus h minus f of x. And then C says f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. Okay? Now, it's kind of like a proof. I kind of call it that, okay? Because you are kind of doing a function notation plug-in to prove a coefficient, okay? So I want to show this. I'm not going to dwell on it long, but I just wanted to show it. Now, my labs will have you doing A, B, and C. On my test, I'm just going to write it as C, because C is the final. Because if you notice, A and B are part of C. Do y'all see? Do y'all follow that? I'm just showing it. They're just showing it in steps. Does that make sense? They're saying, okay, first do f of x plus h. Then on B, whatever you got for f of x plus h, now they want you to subtract f of x. And then on C, it's the same top. F of x plus h minus f of x, now divided by h. Okay? So I'm just going to show it in steps, but I'm going to write it just one time. Okay? So what this means, where x is, this is function notation. They want you to first plug in x plus h. Plug that entire parenthesis in for x. So where x is, we're going to say x plus h. And then I bring down my plus 2. Does that make sense? All I did was where x is, I plug in x plus h. Now, because you plugged in a parenthesis, remember like what we did on the function notation, because you plugged in an expression, you got to complete it, meaning simplify, distributive what? Property, clean it up. So we're going to distribute that 6, and that's going to give us 6x plus 6h, and I bring down my plus 2. Does everybody see that? Now, you can't combine none of that. One's an x, one's an h, and one's a whole number. So on my labs, that's what you would enter for A. Okay? Does everybody follow what I'm doing? Now, if we move to what B says, okay, once you do this, now I need you to subtract f of x. Now, f of x is just the original. Does that make sense what I'm telling you? I want you to subtract the original from what you just did. Now, keep in mind, when you subtract something, I'm not subtracting one thing. I'm subtracting 2 terms. That's 6x plus 2. You're going to have to put that in parentheses because that subtraction is going to have to be distributed. Do you follow where I'm going with this? You're not saying subtract 2. You're subtracting a whole expression. So when I write, I'm just rewriting that part. B says subtract f of x. That's what this is. That's f of x. I'm going to stick it in parentheses because it's more than one term and it's a subtraction sign, a minus sign dead in front of it. Does that make sense? Because you should know that means you got to do what? Distribute. That's what I'm trying to say in so many words. So that's going to give us 6x plus 6h plus 2, just rewriting that. And that's going to be a negative 6x and a negative 2. Now, at this point, when you clean it up, things are supposed to cancel out. That's just the way, that's the proof of it. You just got to cancel. Who cancels? The 6x's and the 2's. So you're left with 6 who? H. That's what you would put in the computer for B. That's what you left with. Now C says take all of that, that's this, that you just did, and now do what with it? Divide it by H. Which all that's going to do is what? Cancel out the H. And you're left with who? 6. Do you see that? This is why I call it a proof, because it's showing you how I can use function notation to come up with the coefficient on x. Do you see that? My answer is supposed to be the same number that's stuck on your x term. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's go through this proof again. I'm going to show you another one. Let's go through it again. And like I said, I'm just going to write this thing one time. I'm going to write it over here because I'm on a different screen. But if you had the function, let's do 11 minus 9x. Now, just in your mental now, because if this is on test, you got to show me the proof to get it right. But what is your ending number supposed to be? Negative 9. Does that make sense? Because that's what's on x. So what you're going to do first is where x is, you're going to plug in x plus h. Is everybody following me? Where that x is, you're going to stick x plus h. And clean it up. When I say clean up, I mean you got to do what? Distribute. So that's going to give me 11 minus 9x minus 9h. That's all I can do. Does everybody see that? Then next, I'm supposed to subtract 2. 11 minus 9x. That's my original. But when I subtract it, I got to put it in what? Parentheses. So I can distribute. You got to do that for the signs to change in order for this stuff to cancel. Does that make sense? So that's going to give us 11 minus 9x minus 9h minus 11 and a positive who? 9x. Because now, who cancels? 11s and the 9x's. So I'm left with negative who? 9h. And so my last step is to do what? Divide that thing by h, which would give me my coefficient of who? Negative 9. Do you see that? Okay. Question.